men lift it with long tongs, carry it across packed dirt, and lower it over the wooden wheel rim. Steam rises instantly. The wood hisses. The metal contracts, tightens, locks every joint into compression. This is the moment a wheel becomes permanent. Before this, it was geometry and faith. 12 spokes mortised into a hub. 6 felloes steam bent and joined. Everything fitted by hand, measured by eye, tested with string and calipers. But the iron tire, heated to 900 degrees, fitted while cherry red, cooled until it grips. That's what holds a wheel together for 10,000 miles of rutted roads. A wheelwright could spend 3 days building a single wheel. And if the spoke angles were off by half a degree, the whole thing would wobble itself apart in a week. This is the craft they called wheelwrighting, a trade built on mathematics, seasoned wood, and fire. It sustained every wagon, every carriage, every cart in America for 2 centuries. Then the automobile arrived, and within 30 years, it was nearly gone. The hub comes first. Elm, usually. Sometimes oak. A solid block cut from the heartwood, aged at least 2 years in a dry loft. The wheelwright marks the center with a compass, then bores the axle hole with an auger bit. That hole has to be perfectly straight. If it drifts even a fraction of an inch, the wheel will cant outward under load, and the axle will snap. Around that center, he lays out the mortise locations. 12 spokes for a wagon wheel, 16 for a heavier carriage wheel. The math is simple division, 360 degrees divided by the number of spokes, but the execution is not. Each mortise must be angled outward, because the spokes don't radiate straight from the hub. They dish. The top of the wheel sits closer to the wagon bed than the bottom. This is called camber, and it's not decorative. Camber keeps the wheel from collapsing under lateral stress. If you've ever watched old film footage of wagons rolling through mud, you've seen the wheels flex, torque, shift with every rut. Camber translates that side force into compression along the spoke grain. Without it, the wheel would fold. So the wheelwright cuts each mortise by hand with a chisel. He angles the walls, smooths them, tests them with a sample spoke. If the fit is too tight, the tenon will split when driven home. Too loose, and the spoke will rattle free in a month. He works by feel more than measurement. There is no manual for this, no formula you can look up. Every hub is different. Every piece of elm has its own grain density. The knowledge lives in the wrists, the fingertips, the slight resistance of the chisel against end grain. If you grew up around a workshop like this, you'll recognize that sound. The tap, tap, tap of a mallet on chisel. The pause. The brushing away of shavings. The silence of inspection. The spokes are oak. Some air-dried for at least a year. Split, not sawn, so the grain runs unbroken from tenon to shoulder. A sawn spoke will fail at the first hard jolt. A split spoke bends, flexes, returns. The wheelwright shapes each spoke on a shaving horse, a low bench with a foot-operated clamp. He sits, pulls a draw knife toward his chest, peels away thin curls of wood. Each spoke tapers slightly from hub to rim. The thick end gets the mortise. The thin end gets a tenon for the felloe. 12 spokes, each one shaped to match the others within a 1/16 of an inch. No two are identical. That's not the goal. The goal is balance. When the wheel is assembled, the weight should distribute evenly across all 12. No single spoke should carry more load than its neighbors. The wheelwright tests this by spinning the wheel on a hub stand and watching for wobble. If one spoke is thicker, he shaves it. If one is angled wrong, he recuts the mortise and tries again. This is the part that took years to learn. Not the tool work, the judgment. Knowing when a wheel was true before you put the iron tire on, because afterward, there's no fixing it. The felloes are ash, sometimes hickory, steam bent into arcs, then joined end to end to form the outer rim. Each felloe has mortises on its inner face to receive the spoke tenons. The wheelwright cuts these by hand, same as the hub mortises, same careful angle. Before steam bending, ash is brittle. Bend it cold, and it snaps. But heat it with steam for an hour, and the lignin softens. The wood becomes plastic. You can bend it around a form, clamp it, let it dry, and it holds the curve permanently. The steam box is nothing fancy. A wooden trough, sealed tight, with a copper kettle boiling underneath. The wheelwright slides the ash blanks inside, waits. When he pulls them out, they're too hot to touch. He works fast, clamps the wood around a circular form, lets it cool overnight. By morning, the curve is locked in. He joins 6 felloes together with dowels, short wooden pins driven through pre-bored holes. The joints have to land between the spokes, never on top of one, or the wheel will crack at the seam. This means the spoke layout and the felloey layout have to be planned together. It's not sequential. It's simultaneous design. Where are you watching from? Are trades like this still alive in your town? Assembly happens on a broad wooden floor, usually outside, in good light. The wheelwright sets the hub flat, drives the spokes into their mortises with a heavy mallet. Each one seats with a solid thunk. Then he lifts the spoke circle vertical, balances it, and begins fitting the felloes. One by one, each tenon tapped into its mortise, each joint checked for tightness. When all 6 fellows are in place, the wheel stands on its own, but it's not rigid yet. You can twist it slightly, rock it. The joints are firm, but not locked. That's what the iron tire does. Whereas the wheelwright measures the wheel's outer circumference with a flexible tape. Then he measures the iron tire he's forged, a band of wrought iron shaped into a circle and welded closed. The tire needs to be smaller than the wheel by about 2 inches in circumference. Not more, not less. Too tight, and the tire will crack the felloes when it contracts. Too loose, and it won't grip. He heats the tire in a circular fire pit, waits until it glows orange, lifts it with tongs, carries it, fast, steady, to the wheel, which is lying flat on the ground. Drops it over. It rests on the felloe tops, too small to slide all the way down. Then he hammers it, fast rotating blows around the circumference. As the metal sinks, the wood compresses. Someone pours water. Steam erupts. The metal shrinks, tightens, locks every joint into compression. The water cools it before the wood scorches too deeply. When it's done, the wheel is solid. You can't twist it. You can't rack it. The iron tire has turned 12 separate pieces into a single structure. A master wheelwright could true a wheel to within 1/8 inch over 6 feet of diameter. That's the width of a pencil line. And he did it without laser levels or digital calipers. There were wheelwrights in every American town before 1900. Not because it was romantic, because wagons broke, wheels wore out, spokes cracked, felloes split. And if you couldn't fix a wheel, you couldn't move goods, couldn't farm, couldn't trade. The wheelwright was infrastructure. His shop sat near the blacksmith, near the livery stable, near the mill. He worked alone or with one apprentice. The apprentice started at 14, maybe younger, swept shavings, tended the steam box, watched the master lay out spoke angles. After 2 years, he'd be allowed to shape spokes. After 5, he might assemble a wheel under supervision. After 10, he'd understand why. Have you seen a workshop like this close in your lifetime? The automobile didn't kill wheelwrighting overnight. For the first 20 years of the car, wheels were still wooden. Spoked, in fact, built almost identically to wagon wheels, just smaller and reinforced with metal. The wheelwright adapted. He made car wheels, truck wheels, tractor wheels. But by the 1930s, steel stamping plants could produce a wheel in minutes. Pressed steel, welded rims, no spokes, no mortises, no steam bending. And steel didn't crack in cold weather, didn't dry out in summer heat, didn't require a 3-day build. The work moved to factories. The wheelwrights, most of them in their 50s and 60s by then, closed their shops. Some transitioned to general carpentry, some to furniture making. A few kept building wooden wheels for restorations, historical societies, collectors. But the trade itself, the everyday necessity of it, ended. By 1950, there were fewer than 100 wheelwrights working full-time in the entire United States. Today, there are maybe a dozen. The knowledge didn't transfer to books. There are diagrams, sure, measurements, plans for hubs and felloes. But the craft was never in the diagrams. It was in the resistance of the chisel. The smell of scorching oak when the tire was too hot. The sound of a loose spoke rattling inside its mortise. You learned it by standing next to someone who knew. And if no one's standing there anymore, the knowledge stops. Some skills can be rebuilt from documentation. Blacksmithing, for instance. There are enough historical texts, enough surviving tools, enough people interested in revival. But wheelwrighting? The tools are scattered. The techniques are underdocumented. And the market is gone. No one needs a $2,000 handmade wagon wheel. Maybe someone in your family worked a trade like this. There's a man in Pennsylvania still building wheels the old way. He's 74. Learned from his father, who learned from his grandfather. He works in a barn that smells like linseed oil and ash shavings. His steam box is a copper pipe heated by a propane burner. His hub stock is elm he cut himself 10 years ago and aged in the loft. He builds maybe 6 wheels a year. For museums, for film productions, for people restoring antique carriages. He has no apprentice, not because he wouldn't teach, because no one's asked. The work doesn't pay enough to sustain someone starting out, and the learning curve is too long. You can't pick up wheelwrighting in a weekend workshop. You need years. Daily repetition, mistakes, corrections, wheels that wobble, wheels that crack, wheels that finally, eventually, roll true. And most people don't have years to spend on a craft that builds 6 wheels annually. So the barn will likely close when he retires. The tools will be sold off. The hub stock will sit in the loft until someone repurposes the barn. And the knowledge, how to angle a mortise by feel, how to read ash grain for steam bending, how to judge when the iron tire is exactly the right temperature, that knowledge will leave with him. Skills like this don't vanish because people stop caring. They vanish because the economy moves, because replacement becomes cheaper than repair, because the infrastructure that supported the trade, the suppliers, the customers, the apprenticeship culture, disappears first, and the craftsman is left working in isolation. The wheelwright didn't fail. The world just stopped needing wheels built one at a time. And maybe that's progress. Maybe it is better that wheels are stamped in factories, consistent and cheap. Maybe the loss is acceptable. But something does get lost. The ability to look at a broken wheel and know instantly which spoke is cracked. Yet the satisfaction of fitting a tenon so perfectly it seats with one mallet tap. The pride in building something that will outlast you, that will roll 10,000 miles before it needs repair. That's not nostalgia. That's mastery. And mastery doesn't transfer to algorithms. If you believe craftsmanship still matters, there's something you can do. Under this video, there's a subscribe button. It's a small action, but it helps keep stories like this alive. If craftsmanship still matters to you, if you believe skill deserves to be remembered, subscribing simply means you want these trades documented while they're still here. And before you go, tell us where you're watching from. Is there still a wheelwright in your town? A blacksmith shop? A workshop that smells like oil and wood? Have you lived this life or watched it fade? Share your story in the comments. That's how these trades stay visible. Skill lives in hands, and hands do not last forever.